17,000. Now let's.
You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today. Your edge when investing.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Hope everyone's having a great start to your day here today. Job numbers just came in, coming in hot. Going to get those numbers for you as soon as I can. So U.S. payrolls rose by 130,000 in January, more than expected. And the unemployment rate came in right about flat or a little bit less, 4.3, 4.4. Depending on which area you look at here. Hourly earnings are up about 0.41%, up 3.71 year over year. January private sector payrolls came in plus 172K. Government payrolls down 42K. So still moves from the public to the private there. First thing I've been watching, as you can see on your screen, is the 2-year treasury rates, and they are not starting off so hot here this morning. They just exploded here this morning. Up now 2.35. It was sitting right around 3.45 before the news came out, shot up to 3.53. And on the other side of that, the DXY, the dollar index, same type of situation, was sitting right around 96.7 up to 97.20. In the world of forex and rates, those are pretty big, pretty quick moves. So it does look like the market is now not expecting market's not expecting rate cuts anytime soon. Let's take a quick look. I can blow up Fed Watch here. Let's see what we got. And we do see that we're now sitting about 78% that with no rate cut. Not really a move from a day ago, slightly down. It's down a lot from a week ago. So really didn't move that needle that far so quickly. We'll see if that changes later. With that being said, the VIX is continuing to move slightly down here after that also. So volatility is compressing here. A little bit down at 17.14, so that's a good thing to see for risk on assets. So the higher rates, not so strong for risk on assets. Higher dollar, not so strong for risk on assets. VIX dropping down is better for it. And let's see how the indices are reacting so far. Pretty muted action out of the NASDAQ so far on that news. It was up going into it. It is still up about 15 basis points, but more in a wait and see than making an actual move. Same thing on the S&P, up about 16 basis points here, and the Dow Jones up about 14 basis points. It's a little different than about an hour ago. Earlier today, we had seen, quite honestly, the Dow was the leader in so far. That's reversed a little bit. Tech getting a little bit of more of a boost here. With that news, gold has dropped down, so I guess the debasement trade takes a little bit of a hit here with higher rates for longer. Gold not seen as good of a hedge, maybe. We're seeing that retrace here. It was sitting up right around 50.85, now at 50.50, but it's been a strong move back to the upside. It had been a strong move into the upside up until about 7 a.m. this morning. When I woke up, it was still really moving to the upside nicely, retraced a little bit here. Same thing with silver, was really moving up nicely to the upside. That's a pretty big retracement on that news. On the oil and crude side, we do see them continuing to move to the upside. They have been throughout most of the morning. So there we have seen that move, which tells me I want to take a look today where in the energy sector, right? I want to be watching what's going on with the gas and oil companies this morning on the open. Some of them could move, your CEGs, your Chevrons, Phillips, all those. Bitcoin under pressure again. It has popped back up off of the lows this morning, trying to make a little bit of a move here, but back down in the 67K range. Same thing, Ethereum broke below 2,000, and it's back to prove it to me before anything else in crypto. And again, we should see some sideways drift here. We're not expecting to see a V-shaped recovery. We got a nice bounce. We'll likely test that macro bottom again before we do raise up. That's why we call it a double bottom, right? So that's what we're looking at there, man. Japan continuing to be in the headlines and continuing to dominate the stock markets around the globe. Up again today, another 70 basis points here. All-time highs on the Nikkei. Hong Kong index up about 31 basis points, and the stocks also at an all-time high. European stock markets up about 1/4 percentage point. So global markets are green leading into it so far. We are seeing green in the morning, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, that was the big economic data on the day. There is a few other things. At 10 o'clock, we've got some Fed speak. At 10:30, weekly crude inventories. At 1 p.m., they do have a 10-year auction. And at 2 p.m., the monthly U.S. budget will hit. So those will be some of the things to keep an eye on. So far this morning, if we look at the morning runners, we see Lattice Semiconductor, Shopify, Kingsoft, Cloud Holdings, and Sigma Lithium leading the way here. It's a mixed bag. Shopify, had some strong earnings, so that's definitely helping them. If we want to talk about what is moving this morning, let's get into it. Starting in the biotech area, Moderna having a rough go of it this morning, down about 10% after their earnings. Worst performer ahead of the bell. Sell-off came after the company said the FDA had refused to review its application to sell a new seasonal flu vaccine. We know vaccines are not in the current administration's favored industries. So not surprising there. Moderna coming in, and they come into earnings later this week on Friday. So will be interesting to see, but they're definitely weak so far this morning. Staying on the laggard sides, Robinhood, one that I'm a fan of, down about 10%. big drawdown here on revenue miss last night. They did have an EPS beat, but they were down about 5% versus their revenue. They blamed it on crypto, which is not surprising. They generate a solid chunk of their revenue from that. They did say that prediction markets were the fastest growing markets they've ever had. So that is a tailwind for them. But like I said, down about 10%. At some point here, I will probably be looking to start a position on it. We'll see. Let's see what the market has to say today, see if it re-challenges maybe that 72 level first before looking at it too much. Most of the other crypto stocks were also dropping today, names like MSTR, down another 1.1%, down 3.93 yesterday. Coinbase also down about 3.51% so far. Some of the miners that had been down bounced back up, especially if they have more of a connection to the data center side of it. Iron, TerraWolf, Hut, BitDeer, and Cipher Mining all seeing positive pre-market trading. Mara still under pressure here, back below 775. Got below 750 earlier today. So crypto adjacent names are a sector to keep an eye on here this morning, under pressure for sure. Other things that were moving this morning, or other names that were moving. ASTS having a nice little start here. So some of the beta names are seeing some decent stuff here. They also deployed their Bluebird 6 satellite, featuring the largest commercial communication antenna in low Earth orbit, allowing for peak speeds of 120 megabytes per second. So again, we keep talking about satellite, Starlink. This is the companies there. ASTS, nice little move to the upside on that news. Shopify was another one that is up here this morning. Up about 11%. Yesterday, up about 7%. So nice 18% gain in the last two trading sessions so far. This was after they missed earnings expectations, but they did talk about a revenue beat. I'm looking for the number here. They expect revenue to continue to grow at a low 30s% rate in the first quarter of 2026. Wall Street had forecasted a 25% year-over-year growth, so that's helping them. The other thing is, we've talked about it, buybacks have been a big part of what's moving up things on earnings. The board authorized a share repurchase program of up to $2 billion. It expects to execute buybacks using prearranged algorithmic trading instructions with no quarterly or yearly minimums. So, that buyback news continues to have a solid effect on markets in general. Other names that I've been watching, we do with gold and silver bouncing back, as you can imagine, the names related to them. Albemarle up about 3.24%. They have earnings, I believe, tomorrow. Actually later today. Later today, Albemarle has earnings. I also saw Newmont is up about 1.74%. They have earnings on Thursday. Freeport-McMoRan also had earnings recently. They are up about 2.5%, so that sector doing pretty well. Ford had earnings. It was a miss, but they're not being penalized all that much here because of, again, forward guidance. They reported weaker than expected fourth quarter earnings. Operating profit of $1 billion from sales of $45.9 billion, about $200 million below on sales, but their top line revenue did have a beat. Fourth quarter operating profit was light, but 2026 guidance was solid for the current year. Ford expects to generate an operating profit of between 8 to 10 billion, so right about where analysts had been expecting. Stock is up, like I said, about 1.25%. It hit a little earlier a high of close to 14. The quarter looks fine so far, considering they had to deal with tariff supplier problems and that electric vehicle asset write-down. They beat sales numbers. That was least surprising. Their fourth quarter U.S. retail sales were up almost 3% year over year, the company's best quarter four performance since 2009. So again, nice little earnings, not being rewarded too much, up 1.4%, but I think they'll take that going into the market open for sure. Other things moving up so far this morning. Tower Semiconductor up nicely after an earnings beat yesterday, continuing to show some strength here. So some solid moves there. Other things that have been moving so far this morning that we're keeping an eye on. Kraft Heinz had earnings today. Whoops. Down about 7.43%. Biggest takeaway here said that it might not split into two companies. The new CEO, or the CEO that had been recently put into place, Steve, I don't know how to say his last name, Cahilan, suspended that plan on Wednesday. He did say he believes it's prudent to pause work related to the separation. And that was surprising because he was brought in. He had seen Kellogg's Kelly Nova separation, and that was one of the more successful divestitures of all time. So I think folks are looking at that and saying, man, the whole reason we brought you in is sort of for that. And if you're not going to do it, then we're not happy. But that stock getting hit on that news. Humana got hit here, down about 6.58%. They did give for a full year outlook below expectations, although it reported a narrower than expected loss in the fourth quarter. Company said it expects adjusted earnings of at least $9 a share. Wall Street was closer to 12 on that, so that was a big one there. Humana is one of the largest players in the Medicare Advantage side, the privately run alternative to traditional Medicare coverage offered by the government. They have about 5.8 million members across individual and group MA plans, according to company filings. Premiums for those members comprise a bunch of their revenues, and we know that the government is really putting a squeeze on those. And the other large Medicare Advantage companies have yet to fully recover from their recent market plunge. UNH, Elevance, CVS have all been down double digits. The proposed payment rate could be revised when the final rate announcement is published in the spring, but it has definitely, as BigBeat's talked about, put it almost uninvestable when it comes to the healthcare sector. So that's a rough one for them. Definitely still moving to the downsides on that. Gilead was another one that reported here. GILD in the health and bio. Whoops, hit the wrong one. And they posted adjusted earnings of about $1.86 a share. It did beat analyst expectations. Quarterly revenue increased 5% to $7.9 billion, also beating expectations. They attributed the change to the higher sales of their HIV and liver disease products, which were partially offset by lower sales of its COVID-19 antiviral. So it was a little bit of tit for tat. They gained in some areas, lost in others. Their once-a-day HIV treatment regime is its biggest moneymaker now, brought in $4 billion in the fourth quarter, a 5% increase from the same period last year. And it did beat analyst expectations. So Biktarvy has them doing well. But Descovy, which is their pre-exposure prophylaxis pill, surged 33% to 819 million also. But their full year guidance was a little light. They're targeting adjusted earnings of about $8.45 to $8.85. And analysts were looking at the top end of that. They see product sales between 29.6 and 30 billion, which is right about where Wall Street was expecting. Their cell therapy portfolio was a laggard in the quarter. Sales fell 6% with ongoing competitive headwinds. So that was definitely a downtrend for them. And, pretty much what they're saying there is that the lymphoma part of their business is definitely seeing more and more stress. So that has them down about 1.82% in the pre-market. Pegasystems, information technology, IT company, software, down about 7% after their earnings here. So again, we are seeing a lot of these get hit, and they did have a actual beat. Revenue came in at 504.3 million, above revenue estimates. They had 2.7% year-on-year growth, and their adjusted EPS came in about 3 cents or 3.5% above estimates also. Their guidance for the upcoming fiscal year came in right at the midpoint. So, there, but operating margin was down almost 30% from the same quarter last year, and free cash flow margin was up about 13.6%. So they are definitely under a lot of stress also. We're about 7 minutes from the top of the hour here so far. And we do see advanced declines up around 1900. So some decent breadth in the market so far of more up than down. Tick pretty positive here at 185. It's been fairly positive since that 730 run, as we mentioned already, and now moving more to the upside. So as these payroll numbers get digested, it does look like the market likes it so far. We will see how that plays out. VIX continues to fall to the downside, and S&P also now up almost 41 basis points. Dow Jones up 40. So seeing a little bit of a pullback after that, almost turbo breakout to the upside here across these this morning. That's what we're seeing so far. Bitcoin, Ethereum, even this doesn't help them. They were moving before that news. I guess the thought of higher rates for longer has the most risk on assets getting hit a little bit. Gold and silver, though, are coming off of their lows. They did bounce down at that news, but now have been recovering. So it shows you where strength is and where sector rotation is. Definitely still out of crypto and into metals is a big part of the stress there. Let's take a last look at the sectors of the S&P before the 9 o'clock hour here. I mentioned oil is moving to the upside with WTI and crude both up this morning. That does have the energy sector as the big winner so far. We also had VRT was up earlier today in the nuclear sector side too. So that's not too surprising there. We see the next best sector looks to be technology. So now catching a bid here a little bit. Let's see if this is a bounce back by the Mag 7, and it is. So after yesterday's rough day there, Mag 7 all in the green here, and NVIDIA helping to lead this drive here. Turbo breakout leading into the 9 o'clock hour here. Microsoft, same type of scenario here. So these things are looking real strong so far today. Amazon again, Meta again. So these broke out at the cash open yesterday. Are they going to break out again for a multi-day runner? That's the question I guess we have. They pulled back from those highs yesterday, but you can see in that 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. hours, you had a big run up by Meta yesterday, did all of its low to high in that range. Microsoft, same type of thing. First 2 to 3 hours was the majority of its upward push yesterday. So we'll see what we get today, but so far things are looking up. So that employment numbers doesn't seem to have spooked everyone. In fact, it's brought the buyers back in so far. Okay, everybody, BigBeat is off today. Well, not off. He's working very hard. He's got a lot going on. Big day for Quasar today. We'll fill you all in on what's going on over the coming days. So I am going to sign off, and everybody have a great trading day.